Welcome to the Cycles of Radiance podcast, a weekly conversation tailored for Gen X Black women and women of color who balance faith, family, friendship, career, and love. Through storytelling and laughter, we embrace the triumphs, challenges, and aspirations experienced by women of color. Your hosts, Joanna Kemper, Dana Middleton, and Stacey Givens, are faith-filled entrepreneurial women who are redefining success on our journey towards well-being. Find us on Instagram at Cycles of Radiance.
So we're officially hitting record on this thing, Stacey.
I think that's amazing. It's been a journey.
It's been a journey. How long have we been talking about trying to do a podcast?
Oh my God. Has it been a year?
Or more than.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Like, it's been a desire of my heart for so long that I just feel a sense of overwhelm and excitement that we are finally at this space of, or this place, this juncture of finally getting it off the ground. I think that's, indicative of life. We think through things forever. And it's like, okay, are we going to do this or not? Let's just jump in with both feet. What are we waiting for?
What are we waiting for? Yeah, we waited a while, though. I don't know that we waited. We just kind of discussed and wrestled and kind of kept thinking about it. But every time we were talking, we were like, we should really record this. Because eventually we had all these topics that we think could be a blessing to other people and stuff that's going on in their mind. And so it almost felt anticlimactic to hit the record button.
Right. Conversations that we're having among ourselves, just chopping it up. And then we realize, you know what? Somebody else might have benefited from what we were just discussing. Somebody else is having this exact experience that we're having, and we're keeping it to ourselves. So
Truly.
why not share it broadly?
And then also when we're talking to other people, I'm sure you've had this experience, especially with other women. You're like, oh, these are all topics that we talk about. And it's like all girlfriends are coming together to have these conversations, whether it's about health or spirituality or shopping, like my bra doesn't fit. I think we talked about that once.
Okay. We did. And where to get one. That will work. That will do the job.
So it's been a lot of topics. We cover a lot of ground. Politics, racism. That definitely comes up.
All the time.
All our conversations.
All the time. All the things that we are living through on a daily basis that maybe we don't pause and think about, because we are moving from thing to thing. We're moving from place to place. And these topics are rattling around in our minds. It makes me think of lottery balls. I think I wrote a post about lottery balls a long time ago. When you're watching at 6:00 at night or whatever time the lottery drawing happens, and all those little balls are floating around, and they hit the button and it shoots up through the chute, and they read off the number. That's how it feels when we get together. Like, there's all these topics that are bubbling up, and there's just one. We hit the button, and then something pops up through the chute, and that's what we talk about. But as women, there's always a series of things, these lottery balls that are floating around that we're trying to address. Mm-hmm. It's our health. It's our families. It's our dreams and our goals and aspirations and desires. It's our finances. And these things are happening in our minds all the time. Right? And when do we breathe? When do we exhale? When do we just take a pause? When do we rest? Which is another major topic that we discuss on this pod, outside of the pod, about, are you taking time to rest and to care for yourself, to refuel, to get back in the game?
Absolutely. And something just came up to mind, Stacey, about our natural flow, like, and we're more apt to talk. I know we normally have these talks, like with Dana during the day. I'm wondering if we're better served doing it in the evening
Mm,
or at night.
mm. Well, my first thought is like, that's like the quiet storm. But,
The quiet
um,
storm. Oh my gosh.
but I think there's value in that. Again, like being willing to try something different or something fresh, just, something that we weren't expecting. And I like the idea of doing things in the evening after everything is settled. The workday is settled, the family is settled, dinner has been settled, everything's cleaned up. And
Mm-hmm.
now is the opportunity to kind of settle into this
Yeah.
place and this conversation and the things that have occurred, before we jump into our topics, because we always have some sort of a topic. I was on a call before this, and the person was sharing that they did not realize how much they needed to be among their community. They said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on all the time. My
Mm-hmm.
job requires me to be on. I do not get rest. I do not get a break. I am responsible for many things. And I was at an event with my friends over the weekend. And while I was there, there was a moment where I, as the person said, I just emoted, and people would come
Ooh.
up to speak to me, and I would just walk away, and I just found myself bawling. And as I
Mm-hmm.
was listening to this person, I thought, that's real, because you
Yes.
did not realize that you needed to be surrounded by your community.
Mm-hmm.
You've been running and running and running and running, and you've been running on empty,
Mm-hmm.
without care and concern, without love, without support. You've been doing things in your workspace that are draining you.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're at an event that is a fun event, and all that you did not have is coming out in these emotions of weeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how many times have I been in that place where I'm just running and gunning, and I'm not, there's no pause, there's no break. I'm just going. And then I get to a breaking point. There's a
Yes.
cliff. And
Girl.
I, as we were talking, I really thought about what the person was sharing. And the person reminded me of a conversation that we had a year ago. And they said, you told me that you just said no more, and you walked away. And I had to reflect on that. I was like, you know what? Yes, that did happen.
I did do that.
Yeah, right. I sure did.
I sure did.
I sure did. And I would do it again. Um,
Yes.
and I told the person, I said, um, it was a necessity. I was at a breaking point, and I knew I couldn't take anymore. There were too many things happening at work and physically, and with my mom and my family. And I knew I can't take another step.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not at a place where I can make a solid decision because I'm so overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided I am walking away, and I will be back in 30 days. And we let the chips fall where they may.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never regret that decision. It was the
Mm-hmm.
right thing to do.
It is, and then I'm sure you realize afterwards, like the chips fell just fine. I think we're always afraid to pause because we keep on thinking, what will happen?
Mm-hmm.
And where are the chips going to fall? And
Mm-hmm.
how are things going to fall? And what's going to happen? And it's like, it's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where faith, right, comes in. This guy's
Yes.
like, come to me, your weary self. Come to me. I give you rest. I give you solutions. I can take care of it. I'm the king of the universe. I'm gonna handle it. Like, just trust me with it. And so we're running around ragged trying to do all the things and be all the things and cover up all of our emotions and everything. And then we just end up completely wiped out. and sick, because that's the other one that we
Yes.
don't talk about as much. We end up all sick. And then we're like, I don't understand why I'm so sick all the time. Why does my back hurt? Why does my neck hurt? Da 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 da. And then you realize, oh, stress is showing
Yes.
up everywhere. It's trying to come out in every way possible because we're a mess. We're exhausted. We're stressed. And so we I think there's also, I think especially for us, there's this mindset of I have to cover up my emotions to be in all these spaces. And that's why we need our community.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no self-care without community care, right? And so we need other people. We need our community. So if we're at work and we're constantly having to put up this front code switch, right? We need a space where we don't have to code switch in
Mm-hmm.
order to replenish our tank.
Mm-hmm.
And for many of us, we don't have that. I mean, we're going from the workplace, dealing with all of that, and then we get out of that, and you try to go to like one of these work functions or networking events, and you're even more depleted. I mean, and so you need your community. You just need to you need to have some boundaries and be able to spend time with your community to refuel. And so I felt that when you were saying that about that person and then yourself, just walking away.
Yeah.
And how often do we need to walk away and we just don't do it?
Mm-hmm.
We
And
just stick
so,
it out.
yes, so much of it is driven by fear of what someone will say if we exit,
Yeah.
whether we exit a corporate space and decide, you know what, I'm not going to work this job anymore. I'm going to do my own thing, or we exit a relationship because it is, as they say, is no longer serving us, or we're no longer serving it. Let's be real. It's not
Okay.
always the other direction of, oh, that no longer serves me. Maybe I'm no longer the right fit for it. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's time for me to exit because I'm not adding anything,
Yeah.
and therefore we're both being depleted. But there's a lot of fear, I think, and that has been my lesson in 2023, um, is overcoming fear and really recognizing it for what it is, um, and being willing to stand up to it and being willing to acknowledge I am terrified in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
of whatever the thing is, terrified to make this leap, terrified to have this surgery, terrified to think about what recovery will feel like if I do this. And for me, 2023 has been a marker of moving beyond fear and
Mm-hmm.
not being controlled by fear. And as I look ahead to 2024, we're 16 days away. I think to
Wow.
myself, my word for the next year and my perspective for the next year is release.
Ooh.
There's a lot of things I've been holding on to and carrying, and wrestling with. And for me, 2024 will be a year of release. I believe that when I let some things go, I can receive some other things.
Ooh.
And there are a whole list of stuff that has to be released for me. And so it's just, again, I feel like having this opportunity to have these conversations is a place for us to talk about these realities. What are those things that, are in the cycles of our life that we are seeing these patterns with ourselves? And I think the word for me came from my chiropractor. Again, cycling back to what you said about why am I sick? Why does my neck hurt? My chiropractor said to me, I see a pattern with you. Now, this person has only been working on me for maybe 3 sessions we've had. And he says, I see a pattern with your adjustments where things aren't moving and it
Mm-hmm.
feels like your body is just holding on.
Oof.
And it just, it
Uh,
shook me. It shook
Yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
said, this person doesn't know me from a can of paint, but by simply laying his hands on me and trying to adjust my body in a handful of sessions, he is telling me there is a pattern here of holding on. And that really, 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 it shook me. And I said, you know what, Stacey, you got to release some stuff.
Mm.
It's time.
Mhm. There's like so much in there that I had to write some stuff down because I was forgetting. I was like, I want to ask her this and I want to say this, and I'm forgetting because there was so much in there. I mean, first of all, I want to acknowledge you facing your fear this year. I know I've got to have the privilege to be a part of a little bit of that, and it's been beautiful to witness, your courage as you're trying to just face the fear and overcome the fear. But what I've liked seeing is that you've acknowledged it, but then you're also walking through it with courage and with faith, and also embracing new ways to go through that fear.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it goes back to cycles. You've faced fear before. But now when you're facing fear, you're like, oh, okay, I went through fear before. What can I do differently this time around to go walking through this fear so I can get to the other side? Because I know I'm going to make it to the other side. I've made it to the other side before. But what do
Yes.
I need to do differently this time to walk through this fear and maybe not be as scarred when I get to the other side?
Yeah.
And learn along the way. So I think that's been the beauty of your growth this year in what I've been seeing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because I don't think we pause to celebrate and acknowledge, the character development and the spiritual growth in our lives. We almost just take it for granted. And those are the pieces that really help us make bolder moves in other areas of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I applaud you, sis,
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Jay.
for that.
Like you said, it was a cycle. It
It
was a
was a
cycle.
cycle, but you walked through it though, and there were several fear situations this year.
Mm.
There's several, and so
Mm.
you just kept on progressing. Like, okay, but then also, I think the other piece of that is you embraced more fearful challenges this year
Mm-hmm.
because you almost got—I don't know if the word is comfortable, but you developed your muscle of navigating through fear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the more you did it, you're like, you know what? Yeah, I made it to the other side. What's next? Let me do this then and take
Mm-hmm.
care of it. All right, well, let's handle this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it just goes to show again, as you're working that muscle, it impacts other aspects of your life.
Yes.
So now
Yeah.
you're able to take on a bigger fearful challenge of releasing for
Yes.
2024 because now
Yes.
you've built up this muscle of, yeah, I'm going to be all right. I can walk through the fear. I'm going to let this stuff go because it's going to serve me and it's going to be fine on the other side. So I love that for you. I love that word, by the way. Um, the other piece that came to mind when you were talking was somatic. So I was listening to a podcast the other day because you're a podcast junkie. I'm a podcast junkie, right? We're always
Mm-hmm.
trying to absorb some information. But I love the way that she was explaining how, as a society through the years, we have really separated the body from the mind and the spirit. Like it's all these different pieces. And it even goes on to the way our medical care is done.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a holistic doctor. Yeah, you have a general physician, but they are really like at high level and can't really give you much detailed information to help you with your health. And so all parts of your body are segmented
Mm-hmm.
as well when it comes down to your care. So there isn't this joint communication to treat you as a whole human being. And I think what we're realizing as we're getting older is like all it's not just one thing that's going on. It's multiple things coming together that are creating the health challenges that we have. And so our solutions need to be holistic. And that's where that somatic care came on. And what brought it to mind is when you said holding on, like your body is holding on. And it's almost like a metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
For your mind, because your
Yes.
mind is holding on
Yes.
to all this stuff. And it's
Yes.
like, well, how do you release it? You know, get how do you release it? So like that's your word for 2024, and I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting journey. I'm really excited and looking forward to witnessing that. But I know it's going to be some challenges along the way. So as we try to release everything, and I'll share my word for 2024 later. It's interesting that you came up with yours too. But that thought of somatic care came on. It's like, our body is communicating to us. It's almost like it's trying to tell us, hey, your mind is thinking this way. And I wonder if the spirit is the way out of all that. But I'll let you touch on that. What are your thoughts on like releasing for 2024?
Mm. Let's
How did
see.
we get here?
Okay, okay. This is a wade in the water moment, y'all. Um, there's what you said about the spirit connection. Like when I started chiropractic care a year ago, I really thought it was a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Honestly, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
no shade to chiropractors and whatnots, but they started talking about neurology and your neurological system and how all these things connect together, and when your nerves are compressed, what that does to the
Mm-hmm.
rest of your body. And I started to think about it a little bit deeper. And when he simply by laying his hands on me, and we know in a spirit realm, when you lay hands on someone,
Mm-hmm.
that things change.
Yes.
And so that the physical act of laying your hands on someone's body and feeling something through that and saying you've got some patterns here, right? Cycles, patterns are
Mm-hmm.
cycles,
Cycles. Yes, ma'am.
and your body is holding on. He didn't say you are, he says your body is holding on. It doesn't want to release. It's like it's resisting when I'm trying
Mm.
to adjust you. And I
That is
thought,
profound.
it really was. It really was. So I believe that the Holy Spirit speaks to us in all kinds of ways. I know nothing about my chiropractor's life or history or whatever, but the words this person was speaking to me and the way they were settling in my spirit let me know, Stacey, the Lord is telling you something here. He is telling you that your body is reacting in a physical way to
Mm-hmm.
physiological and emotional challenges that you have. And you have to release this stuff. Whatever it is that you're holding on to, let it go.
Let it go.
Right? Just let it go.
Let it
Even if
go.
it's a dream, if it's a goal, if it's an objective, if it's a desire, just release it. And it's that image of the helium balloon as a child. If you ever got a helium balloon and you thought you tied it around your wrist and you didn't,
Yes.
and it floated up into the air, and how
Mm-hmm.
crushing that feels,
So crushing.
right? You're
Tears.
just
Mm-hmm.
tears, right? The
Tears. Oh, it was hurtful.
waves of tears, because you're like,
Yeah.
there went my balloon.
There went my balloon.
But that's how I feel about what's happening in my mind and my body and my space right now,
Mm-hmm.
is this willingness, though. I am untying this helium balloon from my wrist. So just imagine that I have all these balloons and they all have a different word on them. It's a dream about this, it's career, it's finance, it's love, it's health, it's whatever. And I've got them all tied around my wrist, and I am choosing to untie them and release them. That is what I'm feeling. And that emotion of tears of, but there goes my balloon. I want to hold on to this. I don't want to let this go, but being willing to do so. Because the truth of the matter is, eventually the helium wears out.
Ooh.
And so I don't know what this journey is going to look like for me as I begin to do some introspection and really be thinking and praying about what are these areas that I've been holding on to, and how do I let them go,
Mm-hmm.
and allow the Lord to replace them with other things,
Mm-hmm.
creating room, creating space in my own mind and my own spirit for other things. Like if I wasn't willing to let go of a job that I had for years, or if I wasn't, I wouldn't be here right now,
Right.
having this conversation with you. I still would have been working that same gig and would not have opened myself up to other opportunities that set me up in an opportunity to meet you and to meet Dana. So I expect it to be um, a cycle. I expect it to be a climb, and I'm I'm nervous about that. I'm like, what is this? But I'm also very open, and I think maybe that's where the Lord has wanted me to get to, is a place of just be open
Yeah.
to what I am about to do. And I can tell you, when somebody who doesn't even know you,
Says that.
right, and tells you what they
Ooh.
see, it is a message, and it's not one to be ignored.
It was a deep message. You can feel it in your body that you're resisting. You're resisting the treatment that could help you. And that's what happens, right? Metaphorically, with our mind. We're holding on to these things that are hurting us. Frankly, they're not serving us. And we're
Mm-hmm.
missing out on the treatment, the elevation, right? That God is trying to provide for us. And so we need to let it go. But it's not easy. I think the word grief came up. I know we talk about cycles all the time, but grief is full of
Mm.
cycles. And I think you're going to experience these cycles of grief as you release, some of these balloons that you've been holding on to for a while. And so I think it's important to make room for that to happen, because you'll need to process the grief in order to make room for the blessings that, are going to come, because they're going to come. God is a good father and wants good things for us. So I think it's just we are the ones that have to let go of our own man made kingdom and embrace his kingdom and what he has for us. It is very difficult to do because we're not seeing it per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of out there. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're trying to, it's faith, really. Um, but it's going to be like a hard and exciting journey for you.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Release
Well,
2024.
yes, it will be a journey for me that I am bringing the rest of you along on, because,
Mm-hmm.
like we said at the top of the hour, I need my community through this passage, to whatever it is that I need to, whatever's next for me. Maybe it's not even a need to, but whatever's next, and just looking ahead to it, and the willingness to let go. And
Let
I
it
love what you said
go.
about grief. That is real talk right there. It is real talk, because it is a sense of grieving. When I've held on to something and I wanted something to happen or believed something was going to happen and it doesn't happen,
Yep.
there is a sense of grief of that opportunity didn't come to fruition like I thought it would, and that relationship didn't come to fruition the way I thought it would, and whatever the fill in the blanks, when those things don't happen, there is a grief, there is a pain, there's a sadness.
Yeah.
And again, it's a cycle. It's like, how long do I stay in that before I begin to climb out? And there are other people who are like, yes, I've seen that in my own life, and here's what I did.
Hmm.
Maybe it will work for you, but keep moving.
Keep moving. I attended this event last night. It was called Impact and Growth. It was hosted by Felicia Ford. And she mentioned this analogy that really was striking. She said, as you're climbing a mountain, you have to start releasing things because as you get higher into the mountain, it's harder to breathe, there's less oxygen.
Mm,
So you have to release some of the baggage
mm,
in order for you to get there. Like you're carrying less stuff and people
mm,
as you're getting up there. And so, because as you look at the mountaintop, you don't have a whole lot of people at the mountaintop, right? And you don't have a
mm-hmm,
lot of stuff at the mountaintop either.
mm-hmm,
So when she mentioned that, I
mm-hmm,
was like, oh, ooh, that is powerful.
mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes as we're going through these growth journeys, there's always releasing that has to happen. We have to let go of certain things. And with that, so we can embrace new habits, new systems, new patterns, right? To support our climb. Because what's
Yes.
gotten us up to this point is not necessarily going to get us to next. So we're going to need different support to continue our journey as well as people. So sometimes we're called to release people from our lives because other people need to come in that'll help us continue the climb. And so the longer we linger and hold on to everything, and the longer we're down here in this, like the raggedy daycare, the
Mm,
valley,
mm,
and we're
mm-hmm,
trying to exit. And so
mm-hmm,
we need
mm-hmm.
to let go. So your word release for 2024 is really powerful.
Yeah.
Oof. Go Stacey.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
Here
We're
we go.
I'm on the journey. I see it, and I recognize it as a journey. And yeah, let's just see what's ahead.
I'm excited for you.
So, what's your word for 2024?
Came up to me last night in prayer and it was radical.
Mm,
Because I'm embracing doing radical prayers, like prayers that I think are like unreal and um it feels unnerving. So but I'm like, if I don't put it out there for him, then we can't even have a conversation about it. And so um it came up to me. I had asked her, this sounds small, but I had asked for my husband and I to have the opportunity to have a getaway. I felt it was a radical prayer because I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen because we would need to have childcare for 2 nights, 2 days, and we would need all those logistics to fall into place. We would need an affordable place. We would, whatever, whatever. I felt like the circumstances would not be able to align for that. But then God provided.
mm,
My mother-in-law said, "Hey, I'll watch the kids. I've been thinking about it, and I think I can actually watch the kids for a couple nights if you want to go away for a weekend." And I
mm,
was like, "Wow, okay, God, I hear you, I see you."
mm,
So
mm-hmm.
he just showed up, but it was something small. So I think it's funny how sometimes he's like, "I'm just gonna give you like something just for you to see
Yes.
that I am King."
Yes.
And so here you go. Here's a little song. But for me, it was big. So like that, I did not see how that could come together. And so it piqued my interest to do like more of the radical prayer. And so the the other one that I've done was like, I want help with my health and weight loss, and I'm not sure how to do it. And lo and behold, after going through like natural doctor and blood work and all the things, I'm getting approved for, you know, a medication for it. And I was like, oh, did not see that coming either. Um, and so the radical prayer that I have now is really that I can generate income with ease.
Mm.
And that sounds very radical because we have been trained in our society to grind
Yes.
to generate income.
Yep.
And I've literally been praying. I'm like, I'm not sure how to make this happen. But I know that you created us as spiritual beings in your image. I'm pretty certain, as a generous, good father, that you don't want us grinding ourselves to death for this world. Because this is temporary.
All right.
So I'm like, how do we bring this all together of being able to generate income so we can survive and live here in this raggedy daycare that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
and then also still be able to rest and have opportunities, to be in community and enjoy, our existence to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so he's coming through in smaller ways on that, but I can see it more as he's trying to kind of pave the path for that to happen. And of course, it's outside of my realm of understanding because his ways are kind of interesting. So a little mysterious. But I'm trying to really dial in so I can see, okay, this is how he's working a little bit. I want to see him a little bit more in action in the day to day.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm embracing the word radical because although it may not seem radical to other people, I think for us it's a little bit radical to think of a restful existence where we still have money to pay our bills. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
um, but thinking of radical, then it helps me open up my mind to new ways, new ideas, new systems, new things, right? Because again, what got me to here is not going to get me to next. So I'm probably going to have to shift some things, right, to uh, embrace a radical existence. And it's a shame that having a restful existence, restful existence that generates income with ease is radical.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
sad, but
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So,
But it's like what you just said. Like we have been conditioned to um to grind. We've been conditioned to press. We've been conditioned
yeah.
to beat ourselves down to try to make, a nickel or a dime. And
Hmm.
but yet we believe, like we serve a God who we believe is the creator of all things, has all things, owns all things, and can ascribe to us any one of those things as he so chooses. And yet we believe that we have to continue to burn
Right.
ourselves to the ground in order to get small things. Like, to your point, being able to have a weekend away feels like a monumentous thing. How is that going to come together? Right. And it is things that you need to refuel so that you can continue to go on and do other tasks in your life, other goals, achieve other things. And I think that there's so much in this society that has us very warped. Our views are very warped
Hmm.
about how life is supposed to go or how life can go. Maybe not even supposed to, but how it can go. Like if we're moving in community, we will have the things that we need. We'll have someone who will watch the kids so that we
Right.
can be away for a few days. When we're moving in community, we will have support when we are challenged by whatever life throws at us because somebody else in community has already endured that and can provide us with, you know what, do this and this and this. It was really helpful for me in my recovery. When we're moving in community and we're starting a new venture, business venture, there are other individuals who are further along in the cycle than we are
Yep.
who can provide that insight to us. But it requires us to actively engage and tap into
Mm.
community, which sometimes is not our first approach. A lot of times
Mm-mm.
we're tapping into ourselves over and over and over again, and there isn't enough there. We have to find people outside of ourselves to help us move through this life's journey. Like it's not static, it's constantly moving. We can make the choice, move with it or not, but life is moving every day.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new
Mm-hmm.
thing every day for us to address, to deal with, to overcome. And I think it's just important for us to acknowledge that, you're making some decisions. Like you said, radical is the word. Am I going to move in radical faith? Am I going to move in radical prayer? Am I going to move in radical trust? Um, and just accept it, embrace it, that it can occur.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully believe that who we surround ourselves with when we are making these decisions
Mm-hmm.
will be absolutely essential to whether or not we will get there. You cannot
Yes.
move in radical faith if you're around people who have low faith or no faith at
Mm-hmm.
all. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot release things when you're around people who are still holding on to things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be intentional about who is this community of people that we're surrounded by as we are stepping into new places, new spaces, new levels, new dimensions.
It's radical. Even when I was in a networking event yesterday with other women online, so many of them have left the corporate grind because it's a grind and they
Mm-hmm.
cannot handle it more anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, then they're designing their own businesses to meet their needs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're having to do some radical moves and be able to embrace radical approaches. So, what worked for you in the corporate setting is not necessarily going to work for you out here in these entrepreneurial streets. So, even one lady was talking about how she's pregnant and she had to hire someone, right? She's been working by herself all along, but she had to hire someone so she can go on leave to take care of her newborn. And it was a monumental task for her. But now that she has that person, her mind feels freer.
Mm-hmm.
Her body is less stressed. And she's she's doing way she's like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I should have done it sooner, you know? So yeah, radical is the word. And release. Ooh, Stacey.
Well, R&R. It looks a little
R
bit
and R.
different.
I wonder what Data's word is for next year.
Okay, if Dana comes up
Oh.
with another R word, I'll be outdone. It wouldn't surprise me. It would not
And it would
surprise
not
me.
surprise me.
But
We're
I
usually aligned.
exactly, but again, when you move in community, there is alignment. It doesn't mean that you move in the same ways, but there is an alignment, there is a connection, there is a support, and recognizing that in order to live this life, the life that is designed for each of us, uniquely designed for each of us, for us to live this, we have to move in community with each other. We have to have that support. We have to have those cheerleaders, those coaches, those people in our personal advisory board. We can talk about that at another time.
Okay.
Jay can lead y'all on that workshop session. That's a plug. It is a shameless plug from me on behalf of Jay about her personal advisory board sessions because they let you know there are some people that I need to have in my community that are going to help me move through these cycles in my life. That is why
Yes.
we call ourselves cycles of radiance, y'all, because there is a light that comes as you're moving through the cycle. There's a brightness to it, and we want everyone to experience those bright lights along the way.
I love it, Stacey. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in community with me.
Thank you. You're a blessing. Next time.
Until next time.